It's a new week and a new project, and as you'll see behind me, just this past weekend, I went and picked up a truck topper. Surprise! I don't think I've really announced this anywhere up until today. And the goal is to demo it to the point of being able to clean it up, start to refurbish it, and put it on my truck as opposed to the Bigfoot to make my truck a little bit more enjoyable to drive around town and still be good for weekend and week-long, month-long camping trips. So let's just jump into it. All right, so now that the windows are out, the carpet is down, and I have a first rough kind of sand of the entire shell, I'm gonna go around and check for pinholes, any little cracks, scratches that are super deep, any defects in the outside of the shell. I ended up getting some Bondo putty filler, and let me go grab that. This is a sandable glazing putty, and what it's going to allow me to do is fill those holes. I'm going to use just a small little straight edge razor blade because all the holes, thankfully, that I've seen so far are small. And then once it's hardened, it's super sandable, supposedly. So hopefully it'll give us a nice finish before I go around by hand, finish sanding this, and get it ready for a coat of primer. All right, well, all in, that actually wasn't bad at all. It went super quick because gratefully we only have a couple of spots around the entire shell that really needed a touch up, but it is gonna take a minute to dry. So while we're waiting for that, let's go back in time and hear a word from today's sponsor. As you've all heard, my time on the road is about to change big time. After a year in the Bigfoot, I am downsizing from a massive camper to a tiny little truck shell, spoiler alert. But one thing that won't be changing is my use and appreciation of a Bluetti, especially now that I'm rocking the AC240. Featuring 360 degrees of protected structural and internal components, the Bluetti AC240 boasts an impressive IP65 rating, protecting it from dust and low pressure water environments. But thanks to Bluetti's clean and quiet operation, unlike a gas generator that makes so much noise if you've ever stayed at a campground before, I can work worry-free around the clock without worrying about bothering the neighbors. Speaking of, I'm about to jump into a full morning of work, and I'm so curious to see how the AC240 holds over the course of a couple of hours while I jump into my first project. So let's go get into it. All right, so it is officially 1:30 and I apologize for the echo. It actually started raining outside, so I had to shut the garage door and pause, but it's been about 3 hours. It is 1:30 in the afternoon. I started around 10. And in the meantime, I have used, I guess, 4 batteries. I've been charging 3 others because having power on the go and ready at all times when I'm doing a build is so important. And unsurprisingly, the power station is still at 87%. And it's charging these guys so fast, actually. I just put them on like 20 minutes ago that you'll see it's not even pulling power anymore. But if it were, like let's plug my speaker back in, for example, one of my favorite parts about the Bluetti is that once it kicks on, you'll see here that the DC output is going to change. And now that we're pulling 9 watts, which these guys were pulling over 250 when they were all plugged in together, we would still have 62 hours left before the Bluetti ran out. And that is important because not only do I not have to do the math to try to figure out how much battery power I have left because it just tells me, but it also updates every time I plug something in. So I'm never left wondering if I'm gonna have enough power to get the job done. So whether you're looking to do a build of your own and want some portable power, maybe you're gonna go on a camping adventure this summer, or many like me, or you just want some backup power for your house, head to the link down in the description down below to check out the AC240 for yourself and use my code WILDAC240 to get $100 off your next purchase. And thank you to Bluetti for sponsoring today's video. It's raining outside, like I said, so I'm gonna take a quick break here and go grab some lunch and then get back at it this afternoon. Oh geez, this is gonna be a nightmare. All right, well, first coat done. I think it went really well. The camper definitely, in my opinion, looks a lot better than it did with peeling and cracked paint, but this is gonna take a little while to set up. So I'm gonna come back, check on it in about an hour and a half, and hopefully do a second coat and finish it up. Well, it has unexpectedly been about 12 hours since I last came out to check on the camper shell. And it's because last night when I first came out here, about an hour and a half later, it was still like so sticky and wet to the touch. So I gave it overnight to dry and now it's ready for its second coat. But before we get into that, I just wanted to touch on a few things that I'm sure a lot of you have questions about. Okay, so first off, did I sell the Bigfoot? I've had a lot of people asking this, and no, I didn't. The reason you haven't seen it in the driveway is because unfortunately the brakes haven't been working the best on my truck after I took it in for a completely different service, unfortunately. So the truck and the Bigfoot are both in the shop together right now. The Bigfoot is still on the truck. Now, the camper is still posted for sale, which is why a lot of you have probably seen it still up. That said, I haven't had any super serious offers for close to asking. And I'm asking a high price for it, I know that, but it's because I'm not in a rush to sell. Now, just because I'm keeping it doesn't mean that it's best to stay on the truck. Where I'm moving for school, for probably an additional job, for community, it's not that realistic to have a massive camper on the back of my truck. And I'll be in more of a city setting where I personally just don't feel great leaving a whole home on the back of my truck in town overnight, in a city overnight, constantly worrying about it getting broken into. Which is how I came to the camper shell. I still want something to be able to get away during the week or weekends. My work and school are very flexible, and so I'm still gonna be getting out, I'm still gonna be making videos, and I'm still gonna be camping a ton, especially in the summer in Colorado, because it's absolutely gorgeous out here, and I can't wait to take Tara with me to experience it all. So, second question, what the heck is my next setup going to be? Obviously we've covered, there will be a truck shell, a camper shell on the back of my truck. I am keeping my Tundra. I freaking love her. I don't want to get rid of her. And quite honestly, I've put a lot of money in maintenance and upkeep into the truck that I just don't want to throw away. For right now, it's going to look extremely simple, maybe even barbaric. Think like a little place to put a bed, a little shelf to put a few things like camping utensils and a chair, and probably one slide out. Obviously there's a lot to do, but I did want to make sure that I touched on those things to not leave you all in the dark, because I know there have been a lot of questions, there have been a lot of big changes. And one that I didn't even mention, oh my gosh, if you're on Instagram you probably saw, but here maybe not, I got into grad school. I know I was talking about going, but I actually got into grad school. And that's a big part of why I'm making this change, is to have more stability, more security, and also hopefully networking opportunities, because in my experience at least, it's not enough to just take a class and get a grade, but to actually network and be an active participant in courses is so much more valuable. Enough rambling though, let's get back to the truck camper. Today is the last warm day for the next few, so I want to get that next coat of paint on here in time for it to dry so we can flip her over and start on the interior this coming week. Okay, well, excuse my red face and these marks, but the shell is officially painted. Now I might have to go back and touch some things up, because the next step is gonna sound kind of counterintuitive, but I wanted to protect the shell actually and get the outside done first, so that way I could trim up the inside as nicely as possible. So again, might have to go back and touch it up, because in order to do the carpeting and the insulation, I have to flip it on its head. Before I do that, this will have hours and hours and hours, if not an entire day, to dry. Now, full transparency, my videos might be coming out on a slightly different schedule over the next few weeks, just because projects very rarely fall on a very clean Sunday to Sunday timeline. But the good news is it means there's probably gonna be slightly more frequent videos. So don't worry, I will be here. I will take you guys along for every step of the way. If you don't see a video out on Sunday, it's probably coming out Monday, for example. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave your comments down below about what you think about all these life changes, and maybe if you have any ideas for the inside of the shell or the bed build out. And I'll see you in the next one.